All right, Higgins, we've been chasing this one for a while, for a long time. And it was actually just a speculative text message that I sent out that just got responded to many, many months later, which seems in keeping with the spirit of the man that I'm about to introduce. But first, let me provide some numbers. 18 test matches, 69 wickets at an average of 26 with the ball. Best of 5 for 32 and 10 for 113 there. 3 fifers, 126 first-class matches, 446 wickets, 16 five-wicket hauls, a hell of a lot of cricket overseas as well, and including in Holland, which I'd like to ask about. Talking about Colin Funky Miller, who joins us from Las Vegas on The Grade Cricketer. Funky, welcome.
How you doing, guys? Nice to be with you.
Nice to have you on too, mate. I don't think there's actually nobody we've spoken to from cricket who tends to all be from the same places that would now be residing in Las Vegas. Yeah. So, I'm sure it's normal for you, but it's a point of interest to us. So can you just quickly run through the Las Vegas circuit before we get into the interview proper?
Yeah, well, I got here because I married American. And my wife, Cindy, was living in Vegas. We actually met in London many, many years ago. During an Ashes series, and then we did a long distance thing for about 8 years, and then she was working here. She had a really good job working for MGM, building a casino and a hotel. It was just easier for me to pack up and move over here and let her do her thing.
It's simple. You didn't want to do like the the ex-test cricketer circuit from the great side of the 2000s and just make comments every week on why the current side isn't that good.
Yeah, I did it for a few years. I did the talking circuit and the corporate circuit for about 4 or 5 years after I retired. But then I came here and got a real job.
Yeah, nice one. Well, Funk, we are called The Grade Cricketer, so let's start there. I mean, you came through the ranks in the 80s playing 80s grade cricket at Footscray. Ray Bright, Tony Dodemaide, Merv Hughes, who would have been a towering figure there. And I just note you took 3 years to progress from 4s to 1s. So like that's proper grade cricket pedigree there. Can you just take us into, the circuit and that Tubbs really?
Yeah. So my dad I actually started at Sunshine Heights Cricket Club. So I'm a Sunshine boy, and then my dad coached me under 12s and under 14s, and then in the 16s he went to Footscray to be the junior coach. So I just followed him there. We had 1 year of under 16s. We won the premiership. I was playing 4th grade at the same time as playing the 16s, and then as you said, I went from 4s to 3s to 2s to 1s in, I think, as you say, 3 years, I believe you. I think I was 18 when I made my first grade debut for Footscray.
You also played club cricket in the UK as well, and also in Holland, and then you got a Guernsey for the Netherlands as well. So, I mean, first of all, who'd you play for in your club cricket? Was that just a big circuit? And how did New Zealand, how did the Netherlands gig come about?
I played 10 years in the UK up in the leagues, Lancashire, and I'd had enough of that. And then we were playing a game in Canberra against the Comets, and this long white bearded guy approached me after the game and said, "Hey, my name is Heinz. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm the president of a cricket club. Would you like to come and play for us?" They called Rood and Wit, so red and white. And I said, "I got nothing to do this winter, so why not?" It was an awesome time. It was a really short season. It's only like 19 games, and only on a Sunday, not like in England where you're bowling 50 overs in a weekend, playing every Saturday and Sunday up in the league. So it was pretty easy. It was 97, 98, I think, when I first went there, and they paid me really well, which was really good too.
Yeah.
But it was funny playing over there because obviously marijuana is a big thing over there, and I remember I was
notoriously
supposedly the club coach, and I went to watch our 3rd team play one day, and there were a bunch of just like guys from uni, just like to play a bit of cricket, get together, have a beer on the weekend, and we were chasing 130, and we were like 7 for 25, and I'm looking down the row, and every one of them was had a big joint in their mouth, just looking at a stovey. And I said to these guys, "No wonder you guys can't win a game." I said, "Hey, we're just here to have fun and leave us alone." But the first grade cricket that I was playing in was actually really, really good cricket.
Right. Were there many joints going around there during the games as well?
No, it was those guys actually took it pretty serious. And if you look at Dutch cricket now, you can see that was really the start of it around that era. We played on the old matting in those days, and now most of the grounds they have now are turf wickets, and they're one of the better sort of next level down countries in the world.
So that guy at Canberra, Hines down in Canberra, was he scouting? What was he doing in Canberra?
Was he going to every player?
Was he just going to question?
He's actually a professor. He's a political professor, and he was actually he was doing some sort of a 6-month tenure in Canberra, and obviously loved his cricket. He'd been involved with Roden Vitt for like 35 years, and he just came down to watch a game of cricket, by coincidence, and then saw me play, and then offered me a job. So I was happy to take it.
Shit, yeah. Yeah.
It's funny, Colin, because as you sort of talk through your career, you often note that for a long time you had to both play and then work at the end of the day, which I think is kind of tough for current cricketers to understand. But you talk about a game against New South Wales where you bowled for an entire day from one end. You open the bowling, and then you come on and bowl, and then you switch to off spin, and then you're fit enough to go take the second new rock and bowl quickish again. And then at the end of that day, you go and work at a bar till midnight.
Fucking hell.
But you bowled them out on that day, so it's okay. You didn't have to bowl the next day. That was just what life was like.
Yeah, I only bowled, I think, 51 overs that day.
Okay.
So it was just a bit of a heavy day. But I poured beers at a local pub, and I worked security, and I used to give drinks away all night. I had fun there. I worked there for about 4 or 5 years while I was in Tassie.
Yeah.
And it's so my best year in first class cricket in Australia was about $37,000.
Yeah.
So you had to have a second job or go overseas in the winter if you weren't playing for your country to make ends meet.
To be fair, you could buy 2 houses with that kind of money back in those days. But
I wish I had
have. Hey, Colin, last week we were talking to Marcus Harris, and he was saying that he was a bit of a late bloomer, despite him being the youngest ever Australian to score a Shield 150 at age 18, and you broke into first grade at the same age. But I understand that you took up off spin after just like having a bit of an ankle injury or something. So, when that happened and you sort of exploded, right? So, I mean, this all happened quite quickly. So you were genuinely a bit of a late bloomer.
Late bloomer as far as, I wasted 13 years bowling medium pace out swingers. Just bowled spin a lot earlier. I hurt my ankle in Tasmania just the night before a one-day game up there, and I think I ended up missing that game. But I was playing for Lindisfarne, was my club team there. They were first year in the competition of club cricket in Hobart, and I was the paid player, and I was getting I think $100 a week or something like that. So I felt obliged to play, and I bowled spin. And I'd always bowled spin my whole life, just never in a game before. I'd just sit in the nets, and when I was practicing on my own, so I knew I could do it. It's just a matter of someone letting me do it in a
game. We've spoken to a few people who have played a lot of cricket with you, Colin, and one thing that was passed on was that, and this may or not be right, but like the first time you bowled off spin for Tasmania was in 96. This is what the claim is. It was 96, 97 again at the Gabba against Queensland. And your first dismissal is you end up taking the wickets of Matthew Hayden and Stuart Law bowling off spin for the first time in first class cricket. You get Haydos out, who admittedly had 230 at the time. He's stumped. And I'm not sure if you picked this up, but he was so surprised that he was out that he actually just took guard again and kept batting, although the umpire had given him out. Is that close to the truth?
That's a very true story. I'm not sure he was 230, but I mean, he might have been close to that. Yeah. He scored a lot of, and in the years I played against Haydos, he scored a lot of runs against us. So every team I played for against Queensland, Haydos murdered us all the time.
Yeah. I noticed that obviously with your dual skills in the bowling department, medium pace and offies, I wonder if we'll ever see a player like that again in the modern era, especially in Australia, where it seems like you've got to be good at one thing. We've been sort of reticent to go with your own, though they've obviously found Cameron Green now. But I remember Nathan Bracken towards the back end of his career, he started to bowl left arm orthodox spin in the nets apparently, and he was trying to convince Dom Thornley, who was the captain at the time, who also bowled medium pace and offies, to get a go in the games, but he never got that opportunity. So I wonder if we'll ever see that again of what you achieved to actually bowl medium pace and off spin actually in the same over. In fact, you got Sinclair out from New Zealand bowling off spin, but bowling medium pace to Stephen Fleming.
Well, I did see highlights of Tim Payne playing club cricket this week in Hobart, bowling medium pace and spin. So there it is. So the Australian captain's doing it now. I think I'm surprised with 2020 cricket that no one's doing it at the moment, or there's not a lot of people doing it, because you got about 4 overs. So why not bowl 2 of each of 3, one of the other? the same as it's basically like switch hitting for batters now. They're allowed to do that, so why can't bowlers do it? And spin in the T20 game is really the dominant force most of the time. Just the quicks are getting belted around, so spinners are taking most of the wickets.
Colin, you took 67 wickets in a Shield season. You beat Chuck Fleetwood Smith's record, 40 wickets on medium pace, 27 of off spin, and then it's not long before you're in the Test side. Can you just give us the experience of you walking into the room of those all-time greats?
Just remember that Chuck Fleetwood Smith got his in 5 games.
Sort of wickets.
One thing I used to say when I was talking to people in Australia after I retired was, if you ever get the opportunity to play cricket for Australia, take it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good fun. Every kid in Australia grows up wanting to play cricket for Australia. And the greatest thing I think now is, I used to say every boy in Australia, but the great thing is now that women's cricket has taken off so much, now every kid in Australia can have that same dream. And it is the best fun you can do. I mean, I'm from a cricketing family. My dad played cricket. My older brother was a fast bowler. My grandfather and my uncles all played cricket. So for me to take that step through grade cricket and just to play first-class cricket was awesome, because no one in my family played first-class cricket at that stage yet. And then to get to the next stage and get to play for your country, you can't do anything better in Australian sport, I don't think.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask you about, we've got on good authority from one of your Test former teammates that the dynamic between Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath was very strange, because basically like Warne just couldn't figure McGrath out. So you walk into like that dressing room and there's like, it's probably the strongest Australian team there's ever been. Yeah. And then there's two greats who were sitting with each other, Warne and McGrath. I mean, what was their dynamic like off the field?
You talking to Flemo?
No, it wasn't.
No, he's not your source. No. Okay. No, walking to that team was awesome. And I get asked this question a lot, what was it like? Because I'm a new guy in the team, but I've been playing for 13 years of first-class cricket.
Yeah.
So I knew all these guys pretty well back in the day when Australian players played first-class cricket as well for the States. Yeah, and their clubs occasionally as well. Yeah. Team full of superstars in that dressing room with the Waugh brothers, Ian Healy at the time, Mark Taylor when I first went in there, McGrath, Gillespie, Warne. All of these guys to me were superstars, and I was older than all of them together. But I looked up to anyone that played cricket for Australia, because I'm a fan of sport to start with, and I'm definitely a fan of cricket.
Yeah.
That tension was never in the change rooms. You don't win as many Test matches as we did in that 4-year period that I was playing if you have tension in the change rooms. It's not expected that everyone on the team liked each other. I think the misconception is that if you're a really good team, everyone on the team loves each other. Let's look at any sport in the world, and you'll find there's one or two outcasts, or 2 or 3 guys that maybe don't agree on their politics or on their personal way they live their life. It doesn't matter what team you're in. What matters is when you're on the field. And when we were on the field, we were the best team in the world by a country mile.
You played in some amazing series as well. I've seen some great footage of Roblinder 2 clips, which I'm sure you've seen as well, Funky, of you absolutely smashing Curtly Ambrose for 2 sixes out of the stadium in the West Indies. I mean, do you reckon Curtly was a bit overrated?
Oh, definitely at that time of his career, he was, yeah. No, it's really funny. I get sent that video probably once a month, even to today. I got sent it like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. People write it to me and say, have you seen this video of you playing cricket? I go, yeah.
That was me. I can remember it. Yeah.
I've got like 14 versions of it and locked in my computer. That's one of the great memories. As a bowler, you expect to get wickets, but I wasn't really expecting to get a lot of runs. And that wicket in Antigua was pretty flat, and you just knew where it bounced and how high it was going to come up on your body. So I took a few deep breaths and swung the bat a couple of times and got it pretty clean. Yeah. And as you are correct, you didn't just go over the boundary and over the fence. It actually went over the grandstands into the street.
Yeah, they're massive.
Yeah. It's a lot of people understand you as a little bit of an enigma, Colin. I didn't attach this to the question I had before, but it is connected. So it's been suggested that after the 67 wickets you did get in Shield cricket, you actually commemorated that physically, but I'm not sure if many people know that. I mean, is this for public? Is this for public consumption? How you actually have kind of commemorated that record-breaking season, or?
Well, I also got 3 wickets against South Africa in a first class game, so it ended up being 70.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You say
having-
chips now?
Having dinner, that's a chip. So I got a tattoo on my ass with 67 on the top. And in the old days, in the Herald Sun, they used to have the cricket scores in the paper, and the photo they used was a set of stumps with the bails flying in the air. So I stole that, put that in the middle, and then put my 70 underneath. It's on the left cheek.
Left cheek?
Left cheek.
Left cheek.
And I've just got here flashing it around on the at an Irish bar.
I had been known to do that, yeah, back in the day.
I mean, obviously have to ask you.
And they probably told you me wearing a G-string as well, whoever you've been talking to.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you must have answered this or told this story a million times, Colin, but I have to ask. The blue hair at the SCG 2001 West Indies. Courtney Walsh pulls away. He's laughing with Steve Waugh. Perhaps the only time Steve Waugh has ever
Never
laughed.
seen Steve Waugh laugh.
Yeah, even on a field, off a field, whatever. Just he was genuinely laughing. But I'm sure you've told the story a million times. But I want to know what the reaction was from the boys in the dressing room. Like, what happened to the Australian team when you rolled in? Because I understand it was like you were sort of angry about not being picked in the ODI squad, the 14-man ODI squad that summer after you won Test Player of the Year in 2001. Telling you things you already know. And but I mean, what's the reaction when you walk into that dressing room with the SCG, blue hair, and what's Mark Waugh saying?
It isn't really a reaction because if you've heard me tell a story before, I hit it really well. I wore my white floppy on the bus. I had my tracksuit on, the collar turned up like this. My hair was only the same length as this now, not much longer.
Yeah.
So once you got your sunglasses on and a hat, no one could really see my hair. It was really, honestly, for most of the guys, when I took the hat off on the ground, it was probably the first time they'd seen my blue hair that morning.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Can I ask you as well, like, because we sort of listed your achievements here. Incredible cricketer. I mean, 18 test matches, record-breaking Shield season, averaging 26 in test cricket. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, had blue hair once. Do you know what I mean? Do you feel like it's actually, I see a lot of guys in the Big Bash who don't wear caps in the field because they want to get their face out there on TV or, new hairstyles or a bit of bling or whatever. Is it a great marketing PR play from you to have the blue hair to be like sort of memorialized in that capacity? Or do you think it might even diminish a bit from what you actually achieved in the game?
Good question, because it was something I did consciously to have fun. Brian Murgatroyd, who was our media manager at the time, nearly had a heart attack when he saw the blue hair because he was one going to have to answer the press while I was out in the ground, and he was the one to come up with the Australia Day blue. It was his idea to call it that.
Yeah.
I made it very clear in the media that I wasn't taking the piss out of the game.
Yeah.
It was just me being Colin Miller. I had a earring in my ear at the time.
Yeah.
I was 35 years old. I'm a young guy who just likes life, and I never insulted the game of cricket. I made sure I never did that. And I had members at the SCG that day who'd obviously been members for 30 or 40, 50 years, come up to me and say, hey, we like your hair. It's good fun. We understand why you did it.
Oh, my God, yeah. I'm just trying to think of who wouldn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's iconic, yeah.
It's funny, Cole, because I'll call you Cole.
You can call me anything you like.
Thanks, man. Test Player of the Year 2001. You've gone back to Victoria a little bit earlier than that. And then, just reading about it, it just seems there's a really abrupt end to that, to the Test career on account of what? Cameron White bowling leggies or something like that? Can you just run us through the closing chapter a little bit as well? Because going back over your career, you had stunning success for Australia and a very, very good side as an outstanding cricketer of multidisciplined. But you've gone back to Victoria and they've wanted to go with the Bear. I mean, what happened?
So at the time, I had a Dutch girlfriend, and she was going to move to Australia, and I was thinking like Amsterdam to Hobart or Amsterdam to Melbourne. And I just thought Hobart would be a bit too small of a city for her. So I thought Melbourne was a better choice. So that was really the reason that I moved back to Victoria for that. Bad decision in the long run because I'm now married to an American girl. So it didn't work out too well. But that's all it was. And Cameron White was the gun. Whitey was the young kid coming through. They needed to fit him in the team somehow. Remember, back in those days, he was really a bowler who could bat a little bit. It ended up flipping 2 or 3 years later to become a batsman who hardly ever bowled. But it was really disappointing. I know in my own mind, if I had stayed in Tasmania, I could have played another 3 or 4 years maybe. I had tenure there, and I was still doing pretty well down there. But you know, when you're told you've got to retire, there's two people that you either retire on your own decision, or you get told you're going to retire. I was told I was going to retire. But at the same time, I was a gym junkie. I loved going to the gym. And it wasn't for 6 months after I stopped playing cricket. I went to the gym every morning at 6 a.m. Did what I did for the last 15 years. And then about one morning, I was bench pressing there, doing like pressing 240 pounds. And I thought, what the hell am I doing in the gym? You know, I've been retired for 6 months. And I realised that I didn't enjoy playing club cricket anymore back before I was told I was going to retire. I didn't want to play first-class cricket. I just wanted to play for Australia. And you can't think like that. So mentally, I realised 6 months later that back then I was done. Physically, I could have played another 3 or 4 years, but mentally, I know now that when they let me go, that it was probably the right time to do that.
Obviously, living in Vegas now, I understand that America is actually the third biggest market for cricket in the world. So, I mean, any danger of Funky rolling down to the Las Vegas strip nets and rolling out a couple of offies?
No. When I first arrived here, so I've been here for almost 13 and a half years now.
Yeah.
And with my wife and I lived in a town in a suburb called Summerlin, and I was at the house one day. She was at work just before I could start working, and there was a knock on the door, and I didn't know whether to answer the door or not, because I'd been living there for like 3 weeks. And I didn't answer it, and there's 4 Indian guys were at the door, and they walked away. And I found out later that they were from the local cricket association in Las Vegas. They found out somehow where I lived in Las Vegas, and they were coming to try to get me to play cricket for them. And then a few years later, which never eventuated, because we only had 4 teams here, from what I understand, and now I think all 4 teams are now disbanded. And then I got offered a position to coach the American men's team, and that's probably 7 or 8 years ago now. But it was a period of time when US cricket was in disarray. There was accusations of corruption going on and all sorts of other stuff. So, I mean, as I say, I work for a living. So to give up work to go and work for an association, there was no guarantee I'd ever get paid. Wasn't going to be a good decision. So that was my last sort of foray into any sort of cricket. Now I just read the Australian papers in the morning and look at cricket info and see what's happening in the world.
How when you look back on your career now, I mean, how do you kind of appreciate how finite and precious the career is? Because I know you got picked in the ODI squad. Was it going to Kenya, and you tore your calf, and then that was kind of the only chance that you would have had, as it turned out. I mean, that's such a one window. I mean, it's not just you. We see this with all the guys all the time. Guys like Colin Ferguson or Doolan or whatever, guys who just get one chance, or Aaron Finch opening the batting in test matches has to play against Boomerang without Smith and Warner. Just like all these examples over the history. Do you sort of appreciate it now, or did you think at the time just like, oh, this is my one and only chance of getting a crack at this?
I knew at the time it was my one and only chance. And I don't know for a fact, but I'm 99% sure it was Steve Waugh that got me in that team. He knew how keen I was to play one-day cricket, and I think they thought the tour in Kenya would be a good opportunity to give me that opportunity. And then it was just, we were running around the basketball court in Victoria pre-season training, and I just tweaked my calf, and it didn't feel that bad at the time, but it took about 8 weeks to heal. It just didn't come good, so that's why I missed that tour. I was almost on the plane. I was literally probably, if I had gotten the plane and had maybe 2 more days treatment in Kenya, I would have been able to play the first game, but we couldn't guarantee that, so that's why I missed that. The Cricket Australia, the girl that worked in the office, looked after the team, offered me my shirt about 2 weeks later, but I just couldn't take it.
Yeah,
I never got it.
Yeah. Speaking of tours, I mean, a happier memory would have been your first Test wicket in Rawalpindi against Pakistan, and it was the wicket of Salim Malik.
Can you surprise?
That's all I was looking for. Really. Yeah. Can you run us through Salim as your first test?
Yeah, there's a half volley outswinger that almost missed the pitch that he managed to reach and nick to Mark. I think Mark Wore at second slip. It took a pretty good catch low down. I think 5th ball in my first over. So what are the odds of that, eh?
Do you have any recollection of, I mean, first Test wicket's obviously an extremely special moment. I think it was right in the middle of that era where they were just trying to rub everyone's head off when you were celebrating in the huddle. Like, what's the Aussie huddle look like at Rawalpindi after someone gets Salim Malik out? When you're in the huddle,
Hot and sweaty. It was It was fantastic. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. It's one of the few memories I have of cricket. Is my first Test wicket. I can see it right now just talking about it. It's just to get one wicket. Like you'll hear guys who've played one Test say, "Hey, I played one Test. It was unbelievable."
Yeah.
Just to get one wicket would have been fantastic for me because that would have been one up on my brother. He never played cricket for Australia. He never got a Test wicket. That's my older brother. So, and just all my mates who never played Test cricket as well. That would have been one up on them. So, just to get that one wicket was awesome. But for it to be the Pakistani captain and to be Salam Malik, so it helps it stick in your mind a little bit more.
Plus, you must have got like 10 grand for getting the wicket as well, right?
And that's probably pretty small odds there. You listen to the stories back in those days, and there's Lamborghinis and Ferraris driving all over the place.
Is that? I mean, did you experience any of that, like being over or on any tour? Like, is that how it rolls?
Yeah, well, in India, we were playing, I think, the second Test. We were in Mumbai, if I'm correct. And the resort we were staying at, the hotel we were staying at, there was a bar on the rooftop bar, like on the top floor. And there would be a band there a couple of nights a week. And you could go up there. And it's one of the few places we could go and have a drink and relax. And I was up there one night just having a drink, having a couple of scotches. And this Indian guy sat down. A young guy, really well dressed, beautiful suit on. Started talking about life and what are you going to do when you finish playing cricket. And I'm talking about this and that. And he said, well, you can probably help you with that. If you need any help, let us know. We can help you out. So that was pretty suspicious, and I sort of let that one ride. And then about a week later, early in the morning, I got a phone call in my room, and it was all, Mr. Miller, you're my favourite cricketer. And it was in the Test match I was playing, so it was the last Test. He said, when you bowl tomorrow, are you going to bowl off spin first, or are you going to bowl medium pace first? What number are you batting? Where do you think you're going to be fielding? And I thought, hang on, this is a bit suspicious. Hey, I got to go, mate. And then we were all trained in those days. You got to report that sort of stuff immediately too. So reported to the team manager, and then you got to sit down and fill out these forms. And sitting next to me was Adam Gilchrist and the coach. So we'd all been approached the same morning by probably the same guy trying to get information from the team.
Yeah. Crazy.
And India won with 2 wickets. Sorry, I want to see.
If I knew it was going to be my last Test, I might be driving that Ferrari around.
Yeah, and then you moved to Vegas. That's interesting. Yes.
Very generous. We'll let you get back to Vegas, Colin. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. I'll catch up with you.
Pleasure, guys. It's Wednesday night here. I'm going to have a Johnny Walker now.
Nice.